I found one of the most shocking things that I found thus far in all the inspections that I've performed for people so far. And here we are on the roof of an architecture firm in this beautiful space that this person lives in. I'm going to show you the first thing right here. Stay back. Radio frequency energy may exceed exposure limits. This person just found out recently that they have cancer, and they've actually been helping their son for the last year or so, who's 25, who also has cancer. And I'm going to show you what is behind this building, and I'm really, really shocked. So here we go. Here's this door, and we're going to just step in here very briefly because it's really intense in here. So this is cell phone towers.
All of us know in our hearts, we would not knowingly move our family, move our home next to a cell tower, right? We know it implicitly that there's something just not right there. The fact is that there have been studies talking about cell phone usage, and this is $20 million study by the federal government because they wanted to make sure absolutely beyond a reasonable doubt that they knew exactly what was happening with cell phone technology and cell phone usage. They found and they determined conclusively that there were carcinogenic effects. Now we're talking about what's going on with the 5G system. Just want to make sure everybody understands. The issue with 5G wireless deployment is not the convenience, because we all like the convenience. It's not the ease of deployment, because it's a lot easier just to pop something up on a tree than it is to actually bury it under the ground and route it to somebody's house in a hardware configuration. The issue is that 5G deployment, because it operates in a higher frequency band at 24 to 90 gigahertz, has to use a higher power density level to get through walls and get through solid objects. And that means you're going to have to put these things every 2 to 10 homes. So you're going to have a cell tower every 2 to 10 homes. Nobody would move next to a cell tower, right? So this is something that is a serious concern.
This is Dan Dix here, reporting for Press for Truth. We're here in Spokane, Washington for the Red Pill Expo, and I am joined right now by our good friends at World Alternative Media, John Sneisen. Now, John, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this coming 5G network, because you are coming from a telecommunications background. You are very knowledgeable in this area. So for anybody who's maybe just for the first time hearing about what this whole 5G thing is all about, what would you say is, just break it down in a nutshell. What is 5G and why should people be concerned about this?
Well, sure. Let's just, by talking about 5G, let's just talk about what we have today, like 4G, for example. So what we have today is we have a bunch of antennas that are standing, along highways or their own buildings or whatever they are. And that is kind of today's system. They have like a central node where you have ports in it for every single person. So they have they're like a base station, it's called, and it just when you pick up your phone and talk or use your text or anything on it, it communicates with a port in that base station, and then it sends that information to wherever you are, routing your information. So that's how it works today, the 4G. But the 5G system, what they plan to do is they plan to just use those antennas as a backbone, so just talking to each other without talking to the actual phones. But what they are going to do is they're going to place antennas everywhere. And the reason why they have to do that is because they're going up in frequency. So with a frequency, you need, when you go up in frequency, it's going to go less and less distance depending on the wattage. So you're going to have more wattage, which is the radiation, the energy that it takes to send that signal out. So when that radiation comes out, they're going to have to amp up the power, and that is what the danger is. When I was back in Norway, I was climbing up in cell phone towers, and you have to shut down the tower or else you're going to get completely fried. Your body will be very destroyed. And I have a friend of mine, he can't go through those naked body scanners, those radiation chambers at the airports.
Which I don't recommend anyone do.
No, exactly. But he actually had to go through one once, and he just started puking because his inner workings of his body has gotten destroyed by the severe radiation you get by just going in front of one of those towers. And today's 4G towers, they usually send out what's at 60 watts, which is, it doesn't sound like much if you know what wattage is. but it has the frequency is so much higher, so the radiation of that frequency is more dangerous to you.
So let me get this straight. It sounds like what you're saying is with the implementation of these new antennas, the current antenna system, are they going to be designing like a mesh, like a giant invisible spider web of radiation that's going to be raining down on people? How's this going to work?
Well, yeah, what it's going to do is you're going to have an antenna like right at your door almost, because the frequencies that they're looking at running at is, between 6 gigahertz all the way up to 60. But the problem is today I'm installing with 4G, I'm installing cell phone boosters in people's home. I don't recommend that you ever put that in your house, because now you have a mini cell phone antenna in your house, which is not good for your health. But with the new 5G, they're going to have to completely put these antennas so close and so tight that I don't know if I want to really be around a place that have 5G, because you're looking at of course, they're not going to have to send out at the 60 watt, which fries people, but they're going to send it out they're going to have to send it out at a decent wattage to actually be able to penetrate into the house. Because most houses today, the 4G signal, which is 2.1 gigahertz here in North America, has problems to penetrate already. So with the new system, and they're talking about different aspects and ways to try to make it better and easier for them to penetrate, but I see that as a danger, because now you're gonna have all these antennas everywhere, and they're gonna constantly, give you radiation. Because the radiation that are dangerous, they kind of minusculely talk about it in the 5G white papers, that you're gonna have some, but it's gonna be 10 times less. They're saying and stating, but with 4G, you don't even want to have this phone up to your head, because you're gonna, if you ever been, talking like this, you've had. And felt, the warmth, and that's the radiation that are, damaging your cells.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me get this straight, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, what they would like to see is it be inescapable, essentially a global Wi-Fi system where anywhere in the world you would be able to log on to the Wi-Fi, or they would be able to log on to you. Is that true? Is that what they're going for here, a global universal Wi-Fi system?
Well, if they are not planning on doing that, they're definitely doing it. It might not be the conspiracy, but they're definitely, that's where they're going with it. And it's just an automatic, I think, of governments and everybody wanting, well, of course, there's huge convenience having access everywhere you are, and we're so addicted to our phones today. So I believe that, I'm pretty sure that, the implementation of this is not going to be, good for people's health because of the radiation. And in Norway, for example, you have housing built far away from the high voltage lines, because that radiation is very damaging for you as well. People have been proved to get cancer and bad cancers like leukemia and so on by being close to those antennas. So it's not good at all to implement this system, but it's super convenient. I would like to see more fiber optical cables, because it's just light and it doesn't radiate anything or damaging, with the wattage and the electromagnetic frequencies that comes out of these towers. But it's not going to be as convenient anymore, because you don't have Wi-Fi. You're not so portable anymore, right? So it's all about the convenience, and people will willingly, adopt to this because it's super convenient. I don't see how we're going to stop it, because people are, as I said, super addicted. So I think the implementation, and of course the International Telecom Union, the ITU at the UN, is working on, putting out legislation and creating all this stuff for all over the world. But yeah, it's inevitable, I think, that they're going to try to implement. Actually, in Morden in Manitoba, in Canada, they're just implementing a 5G system.
Well, is there anything to do, in closing here, that people can do to protect themselves from this, or to mitigate it somehow, or to reduce the harmful effects that are inevitably going to be coming?
Well, there's a couple of things you can do. You can, of course, shut off your phone and not where I have right now, close to your your private parts. Just to make sure that you shut off. But the problem is if you shut it off, you're not accessible. So it's harder that way. But I would say you're probably better off in the long run, doing that. You can, of course, get devices and little cages that you can put around your phone to protect yourself from the radiation from them. And of course, if you have Wi-Fi at home, you can shut it down when you don't use it. To mitigate the exposure to the risks of the frequency, to the electromagnetic frequency. And of course, you can build yourself a Faraday cage around your house, but that's a little bit extreme, maybe. But maybe that's what they have to do in the future. They're going to have to do it, but we'll see where it's all going to go. I think there's a lot of risks that are not getting talked about, especially the health risks, and it's kind of like it's come out and in, like in Norway where I'm from too. Every now and then there's somebody talking about the cancer risks of cell phone usage, but then suddenly it just disappears. So it's I think, of course, the big telecom companies doesn't want to have anybody know that they could get cancer, because they would, first of all, they get massively sued, and then people might wake up to how dangerous the overuse of this is.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent words of advice. Minimize your usage, essentially. This is something me and my girlfriend have recently implemented. A new rule in the house: no cell phones in the bedroom. We turn off the Wi-Fi before we go to sleep. It leads to some things that you never would have thought of. Like, I'm reading a heck of a lot more. I'm not sitting there in bed scrolling through my stupid social media websites, and I'm reading instead. So lots of benefits can come from reducing your exposure to radio frequency exposure and just the cell phone in general. So, John, once again, man, thanks so much for talking to us.
Pleasure.
Links will be located in the description below.
At this point, the evidence has become sufficiently strong that cell phone radiation is a human carcinogen.
A major development from California's Department of Public Health. High use of cell phones may be linked to certain types of cancer and other health effects, including brain cancer and tumors, lower sperm counts, headaches, and effects on learning, memory, hearing, behavior, and sleep.
If it was a real problem, I would know. If it was a real problem, the government would protect us. How come I'm not hearing about this? They're all things I've heard when I give seminars. I get up there and they say, oh yeah, if this was really a problem, they would have told us. I am they. I am a, legitimate scientist, and I am telling you.